They're described as one of the world's most persecuted minority, the Rohingya community, a largely Muslim population from Myanmar's western Rakhine State, are still being persecuted today, with the UN warning that the Rohingya remain under serious risk of genocide. Now, a new film called Mécanique d'un crime, Mechanics of a Crime, explores the circumstances which have fueled Myanmar's Rohingya crisis. Joining me to discuss this tragedy is the film's director, Gwen Le Guil, who's just returned from Myanmar. Gwen, thank you for joining us. So your film, Mécanique d'un crime, Mechanics of a Crime, what is it about, and what's the film's message? How did you get into this project?
Yeah, I try to tell this story, the Rohingya story, what happened for these people for almost 10 years, which is an ethnic cleansing, which is a case study of ethnic cleansing, as the United Nations said 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. So I try to tell the story as a news story, a crime story, just to let people here in Europe and in France to understand what's going on in this area, because we don't know exactly, we don't know sharply what's going on.
One of the issues has been the difficulty in actually naming what is going on in Myanmar. So you mentioned that it's a case study for ethnic cleansing. Other people have said that the people of Myanmar are victims of a military crackdown. Some say it might be a genocide. What is the story? Well, what is the truth? What is going on in Myanmar?
I'm just a reporter, I'm just a journalist. So I'm not the one who can say this is a genocide, of course. But according to investigators from the UN, especially, according to diplomats, and according to researchers who are working on the what is the essence of a genocide? This is a genocide because it ticks all the boxes of what is a genocide according to the researchers. The starting point is naming a minority as a different group from your state, and the final point, the final stage, is erasing all the proofs after the crime.
And in your film, which I've seen, it's a very moving and harrowing film. We see you meet and come into contact with members of the Rohingya community. We hear their accounts, how they fled their homes and how they arrived in Bangladesh. How did you go about getting into contact with them? The media has faced a lot of restrictions reporting on this topic. How did you get so close to the Rohingya?
It's not, to be honest, it's not very difficult to investigate on what happened 2 years ago on the victim side nowadays. It's far more difficult to go on the other side in Burma, because the Rakhine State, the place where these people are from, it's totally forbidden to NGOs, to journalists, of course, to reporters, and even to people to diplomats from the United Nations. So it's almost impossible to go in this place, in this area. So fortunately, I could go there for a few days through a press tour organized by the authorities in Burma, and I have few minutes in few days to do the job. Yeah.
And in your film, we see you on this press tour trip. You sort of show us you're in a taxi with a taxi driver, and you're trying to film the images of the villages where the people, where Rohingya used to live, and you say in the film that each time you try to take a photo, the taxi driver sped up and accelerated. What does that tell us about the challenges for journalists trying to report on this issue?
It tells us that they know exactly what they did. What soldiers did in this area, and they know perfectly what they have to say to foreign media and not. Their point of view is very simple. These people are not victims. Okay. These people are terrorists.
That's the official argument.
Yeah. Exactly. They say that people are terrorists. Even the villagers, all of them are terrorists. Okay. No, come on, they are not victims. They burned themselves, their houses and their villages to flee. So it's very strange for us
very strange.
to receive this speech, but they think that they can convince us because they know absolutely that it's a problem for them now to be as like that accused by the international community of what have been done in this area. Yeah.
Just before getting on to the international community, in the government's defence, in the army's defence, they say that several soldiers were attacked by Rohingya insurgents. I think that's what provoked, which triggered the crackdown in August of 2017. Several Rohingya insurgents attacked a police station. So would you say that the government, the Myanmar army, does have justification for carrying out what it did in August 2017?
Yep, it was the starting point. But the question is, who was these guys attacking the army posts at that time? It's a few dozens of guys, youngsters, between 20, 25.
Yes.
With no guns, without guns, sorry.
Okay.
Just sticks.
Okay. So you're saying...
On knives.
So you're saying that these Rohingya insurgents did not attack police?
No. I never said that.
Okay.
They attacked the police stations.
Yes.
The 25th of August in 2017. This is a fact.
Okay.
But we don't know who are they. And we just know that it was not a guerrilla, because there are a lot of guerrilla in Burma. We know these guerrillas, the ethnic minorities guerrillas for decades.
Okay.
We know very well them.
Okay, so
I've been covering for years the fightings between some of these guerrillas with the Tatmadaw, the National Army.
Okay.
But this case is far more different. It's just nothing to see.
If you move on to the international community now and the role played by international nations in the Rohingya crisis, what do you make of the reaction of the international community? Has it done enough to stop the Rohingya crisis?
I'm not the one to say that, but I cannot understand. I am not the one who says that they are doing the job or not. Yeah.
Based on what people have told you, the people who you interviewed, what did they say to you about the international communities
the people,
role?
the refugees, the million people refugees in Bangladesh.
Yes, that you met.
Most of them, yeah, of course, several times. All of these people are just waiting one thing, just to be safe in their lands, just to be able to be back in their villages in Burma, not more.
And do they have any... What do they feel about the Myanmar government, notably the role of civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi? Some people have blamed her for not...
They are very upset about...
Doing enough? Yes.
They are very upset about after Aung San Suu Kyi, because they had the feeling that what happened 2 years ago couldn't happen. Because thanks to this lady, to the lady.
Okay.
But unfortunately, just to get in power, in political power, she didn't do anything. She preferred to just not moving, not doing anything, than to just to get the power. Yeah. So she let the generals doing the job, the bad job.
So the role of Aung San Suu Kyi is now coming under scrutiny, so we'll wait and see what the United Nations does decide. If we conclude now about the future of the Rohingya, so nearly, I think, 1 million refugees are still living in Bangladesh in very difficult conditions. What do you think, what options are there for the Rohingya community?
These people are just waiting for they just want to be back to their lands and their home and their villages. Of course, they cannot do it today because the battalions, the soldiers who chase them from their lands are the same in charge of this area nowadays. So it's more than tricky for these people to be back in their villages. Moreover, if they want to cross against the border and to go back to Burma, they already know that it's impossible for them to go back to their villages. They have to stay in camps for months, years. Nobody knows. And the last thing is, if they choose nowadays to cross again the border to be back in their villages, first of all, they have to sign a document. They must approve the NVC card. They must get an NVC card. The NVC is the National National Verification Card. It means they accept to refuse the Burmese nationality,
which makes them stateless.
Exactly.
Okay,
so they cannot accept this.
If you can just sort of perhaps conclude with one testimony, perhaps which really struck you. You've interviewed hundreds of Rohingya refugees. Which one story?
Yeah, of course.
Really touched you.
There is a story I'm following for 2 years. This is not the story in this documentary, but another story. It's the story of a guy named Noor Mohamed. Noor Mohamed is a 45 years old guy. He's a father. He has 5 children, and he's the first refugee I met when 100,000 people were crossing the border. Nowadays, he decided to be a teacher, so he's teaching to all the children in the camp, because one of the most important problems nowadays in the camps is there is 500,000 children with no schools, no teacher. And this guy, this wonderful guy, Noor Mohamed, is trying to find a solution to this problem, and is a teacher every day, is teaching Burmese to these children who are Rohingya, who are Burmese, but who are not able to say that I have the Burmese nationality.
Thank you for watching this segment. We've been speaking today about the Rohingya crisis in Myanmar with my guest, Gwen Le Guin, documentary filmmaker who has just completed a film called Mechanics of a Crime. Gwen, thank you so much for speaking to us at RFI English.
Thank you.